Okay, so we're picking up on 141, and we're going to try to get to, and I don't think we'll have, 920. I don't think we'll have a problem. We're going to try to get to 237, and if we can, beyond there. I believe we left off on 139, and Margaret says, well, I see you found that book. Take care you do not read too much. She says, I've already read it all. Not always the same book. Like me, it is several things at once. She shrugs. She's acting like, I know it all anyways. Like she's memorized it. Okay? So she says, I need your help, Margaret. I need to find my father's body. He goes, I don't know where he is. He's dead, You got to tell me. Aren't you bound? She asks. He says, well, read his diary. Well, he probably took it with him. Aren't you supposed to help me? So he kind of, assumes his formal position, I guess, as a cat can, and says, 3 weeks ago, bottom of 140, top of 141, a messenger came from Belisar begging for his help. That is Habworth's help. Something dead, something that could pass the wards, was preying on them. The previous one, suspected there was more to it than that, Belisar being Belisar. But he went. She says, Belisar, that's a town, right? It's a city. What's the difference between a city and a town? The city is bigger. Murfreesboro's a town. Nashville, no, it's not really. New York's a city. Nashville's a wannabe city. Okay? It might be in 20 or 30 years. There hasn't been a king or queen, he goes on. It's the capital city when there was still a kingdom. She asks, was? What do you mean? There's not still a kingdom? I mean, we still call this place the Old Kingdom, she's implying. He says, what did they teach you in that school? Well, what did they teach her in that school?
About ancestry.
South of the wall. They didn't teach her anything about north of the wall. Where would she have to go to learn about north of the wall? North of the wall. Okay? There hasn't been a king or queen for 200 years. And not even a regent for 20. What's the difference between a regent and a king or a queen? Placeholder. Okay? That's why the kingdom sinks day by day. Now, we're going to meet somebody fairly soon, who we're already talked about, who was alive when the last queen was alive. Right? Touchstone. How old is he then?
200 or some years.
At least 200 years. He looks to be 20 or so, 220 years or so. Okay? She says, but the charter crumbles too, he adds. Without a ruler, charter stones broken one by one with blood. One of the great charters twisted. Notice, he has trouble getting that word out. What do you mean, one of the great charters? She interrupts him. She'd never heard of such a thing. Not for the first time, she also wondered what she'd been taught in school and why her father sent her to school there and not in the Old Kingdom. Page 142. For a moment, he, Mogget, seemed to be trying to form words, but nothing came from his small red mouth. Finally, he gave up. I cannot tell you. It's part of my binding. Curse it. That is, the binding that he has, it's not simply the collar. There are words associated with it that forbid him from saying certain things. He can't reveal certain things that he knows. And, I'll give away this from later books, being a free magic being, he knows an awful lot. He knows about things from essentially the beginning of time. But he can't talk about it. Okay? Suffice to say, the whole world slides into evil. Okay? Is that because there's no king and queen? He says everything's falling apart because there's no king and queen in the Old Kingdom. Okay? And many are helping the slide. She says, yeah, but some resist it, like my father, like me. Yeah, it depends on what you do. Notice, you can think you're resisting it, he is implying, and not really. Not that I care. Why? I'm a free magic being. Doesn't matter to me. Is he bound, quote unquote, to this? No, he's not really. Other than in his bound form. Okay? But if the world goes to hell in a handbasket, Mogget doesn't die. Okay? Because he can't really die, so to speak. So, they go up to the observatory, and they look across the stone pathway across the river, and she sees the Mordicant, and then she sees there are men and women. And the Mordicant is making the men and women make a earthen bridge across the stones to the house. Okay? How? What kind of earth? Grave dirt, we're told. Okay? And he's like, you don't have a lot of time. That bridge is going to be made, and once it's made, he's going to be here. Okay? She says, but 147, I thought I would be safe here for a time. He says, well, you are. For a time. I mean, you've been here for a day now, a couple of days. It'll take at least until tomorrow evening before the bridge is complete, so you've got, like 36 hours. When the dead will have to hide if it isn't overcast. He says, it could just be a petty necromancer. I slew a dead thing at Cloven Crest. It said it would have its revenge, top of 148, and spoke of telling the servants of Caragor. Do you know that name? Yep. Lips are sealed. Can't tell you about it. But it's one of the greater dead, your father's most terrible enemy. Do not say it lives again. Now, that do not say it lives again, that's his way of kind of going, please don't tell me it's back. Because if this thing's back, all bets are off. Okay? I don't know. Why can't you tell me? It's a perversion? Yes. Coils within coils, Sabriel says. What does she mean, coils within coils? Curiouser and curiouser? What does even that mean? Enigma wrapped in mystery upon mystery. In other words, she's like, can't I get a straight answer? Can't anything be clear? Well, where does that take us? Right back to Till We Have Faces. Because what is a rules problem? In that novel, nothing the gods do is clear. Nothing is black and white. Nothing is day and night. She's having the same problem here. Notice the sending didn't say, your father is trapped beyond the X gate, and his body is, here's a map, here's the X. Find the X. All it says is, Sabriel, take the things, and that's it. Okay? So she's got to figure it all out on her own. They take the paper wing. I'm going to skip some. Let's see here. Before they take this paper wing. Page 156. She asks, 155. She asks Mogget, do you have a map? Lost my place. He says you should head off for Belisar. Do you know how to get there? Mogget asked her. She's silent. She said, he asked, do you have a map? No. Okay. And we're told the middle of the next page, 156, or the middle of the top paragraph, everything that had seemed so certain and solid in her life a few days before, or a few days ago, was crumbling. Everything she thought she knew, everything she thought was important, gone. She didn't even know who she was, really. And trouble seemed to beset her from all sides. even a supposed servant of Abhorsen like Maggott, seemed to provide more trouble than service. She has no idea, right, how much more trouble than service Maggott will seem to provide. Because she's going to take the paper wing with him, and what happens?
It crashed.
Okay, before it crashes. She calls up the winds,
The things follow her.
makes them too big.
Them crows.
Okay, the crows come. What does Maggott tell her to do?
Take the collar out.
Why?
'Cause
I'll help you. What's this like? What's Maggott essentially asking her to do? Trust me. Trust me. Well, what happens if she doesn't take the collar off?
they're gonna get killed by them crows.
Dead. Yeah, killed by the crows. Okay. So he says, yeah, I know the way. I guess I should come with you. After all, someone has to look after you, 156. At least till you've grown into a real Abhorsen. Notice, it's not simply the title. That is, it is the title, but there are actions that have to go along with it. Okay? She says, I'd still like a map. Maggott, you draw a sketch map? If you must have one. I think it would be better if I undertook the cartography myself. Let's go down to the study. Okay? She says, I don't care who draws it, etc., etc. So, they get the map drawn, and I'm going to skip a bit. Go to the end of that chapter. Maggott says, 162, Sabriel tells him, I'm ready. Maggott doesn't answer. Sabriel, he looks like he's going to be sick. I mean, he's a cat, hairball. Sabriel recoils, disgusted, then halts, as a small metallic object fell from Maggott's mouth. I mean, literally, it's like a hairball, but this one isn't a hairball, and bounced on the floor. Maggott says, almost forgot. You'll need this if I'm going to come with you. She kind of looks down and is like, what is it? Okay. The cat just, and she reaches down and picks it up. Now, that's kind of gross. What is it? And she picks up a ring. A small silver ring with a ruby gripped between two silver claws that grew out of the band. Maggott. Okay. She asks, what is it? Does Maggott reply with the what?
No.
He replies with the age. It, whatever it is old. You'll know if you need to use it. Put it on. What does Maggott know?
It's to seal it back.
Yeah, it
Okay.
says-
Why does he do this? Is this part of his binding? Does he have to do this? It's not clear. So, if it's not part of his binding, why does he do this? Okay, because he's giving her the ability to do what after she does what?
Seal it back after he gets it.
To rebind him after he is freed. How long has he been bound?
Thousands of years.
Real long time. For 10 times he has served 10 times the number of Abhorsens that she is old. She is 18, so he has served 180 Abhorsens. He's been bound a long time. Okay? She looks at it. It looked quite ordinary. That is, it just looks like a ring. There were no charter marks on the stone or band. It seemed to have no emanations or aura. That is, she picks it up and it doesn't give her the willies, or she doesn't get vibes from it. It just looks like a normal ring, but it's got claws that reach up, that form the two outer parts of the band that hold this stone. It felt cold as it slipped down her finger, then hot, and suddenly she was falling into infinity, into a void that had no end and no beginning. Everything was gone, all light, all substance. Then charter marks suddenly exploded all around her, and she felt gripped by them, halting her headlong fall into nothing, accelerating her back up, back into her body, back to the world of life and death. So where is she just gone? Death?
Somewhere different.
It's not death. Eternity itself. Infinity itself. Okay? But if you're into eternity, what does eternity mean? Outside of, turn, temporalness, outside time. Infinity without any boundaries. Why is it described as a void with no ending or no beginning? Everything was gone, all light, all substance. Because there's nothing that binds it. There's nothing that contains it. Okay? It's completely endless. There's nothing for her to mentally, intellectually, physically latch onto. It's just total free fall. Yeah, it's kind of just there. Okay? And then she's brought back. Free magic, she says, looking down at the ring gleaming on her finger. Free magic connected to the charter. I don't understand. Free magic connected to the charter. Free magic isn't supposed to be connected to the charter. You find out later on, the charter itself is a kind of a free magic being, if I remember correctly. I just reread these over the summer. Why am I not remembering them? Anyways. Margaret, she says, I don't understand. You'll know if you need to use it. And he repeats it. Don't worry about it till then. Just, put it out of your mind. Don't worry. Just don't think about it. La, 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 la. The paper wing's ready. So they go up to the paper wing. Charter marks all over this thing. They get in it. And take off. Okay? So he says, do you know the marks for the winds, right? Yes. So they go. That's a typo. That's not something we need to talk about. They see the gore crows. 175, she yells to Margaret, I need to summon a greater wind. She does. She kind of accidentally summons a hurricane, essentially. And let's pick up with 178.79. 179. Okay. Margaret mews, I think / yells, loose my collar. Okay. Loose. Does that mean take off? Not literally. It means it's a little tight. I can't breathe. Followed by the curious sensation of Margaret digging his claws into her armor. Now the implication there is she feels the claws through the armor. Well, that's kind of worthless armor, right?
Or strong claws.
Or strong claws. Loose my collar. She looks at him. She looks at the ground. Why does she look at the ground after she looks at him?
Because she didn't go down.
He's coming right at her.
She felt stupid. Unable to decide. The collar was part of an ancient binding, terrible guardian of tremendous power. It would only be used to contain an inexpressible evil or an uncontrollable force. Which is Margaret? Is he inexpressibly evil? Think about what that word means. Inexpressible. Cannot be expressed. Okay? Expressed can have two meanings. Spoken. What else can it mean? Pushed out. To express coffee. If you're using a French coffee press. Okay? Pressed out meaning bound. Controlled. So, can't be spoken. Can't be controlled. But this one can be controlled as long as you have the nice little collar and or the ring. Or an uncontrollable force. Trust me. Like a used car salesman. Trust me. It's a good car, Loose my collar. He doesn't just say loose my collar, notice. And remember the ring. He's telling her, unbind me, and I'll give you the key to binding me back. In doing that, he's offering her what? Complete power and control over him. Loose my collar means what? I can be free. Totally free at last. So, is this binding totally against Mogget's will? If he's offering her the means to rebind her, he's doing what? Putting himself in her hands. Okay? Or placing himself beneath her to an extent. Sabriel swallows, closes her eyes. Father, forgive me. No, she's not talking Father God. She's talking to Abhorsen. Or maybe the other one. I'm not quite sure yet. But it was not just to her father that she spoke, but to all the Abhorsens that had come before her, especially the one, whoever that was, who had made the collar so long ago. She felt little more than pins and needles as the collar came free. Then it was opened, suddenly heavy like a lead rope, or ball and chain. Sabriel almost dropped it, but it became light, then insubstantial. Insubstantial, literally, of no substance. It disappears. But Mogget is now still sitting on her lap. Nice little kitten, she's petting it. But then he starts to glow with an internal light. Not light shining outside, light shining inside. And as he starts to glow, he gets bigger. Why? Well, think of the glow. As the light gets brighter and brighter on the outside, the glow gets larger and larger and larger and larger until there is no longer any cat form. Within a few seconds, there was no cat shape left, just a shining blur too bright to look at. It seemed to hesitate for a moment. Sabriel felt its attention flicker between aggression towards her and some inner struggle. What's the inner struggle? Freedom. Get the one that's bound me. Well, she's the latest one. I can't get the one that did it originally, or any of the other 179, but I can get number 180. Okay? Or save her. It almost formed back into the cat shape again. Why? Choosing to bind itself. Okay? And then, 4 shafts of light. One shoots forward, one aft, and 2 seem to slide onto the wings. Forward, aft, wings. It's taking the shape of what? The plane itself. Okay? Then the whole paper wing shone with white brilliance. It abruptly stopped its headlong dive, leveled out. Mogget, or whatever Mogget was, breaks the paper wing, does a series of shuddering halts, breaks it again, and Sabriel cheers as the paper wing gently lay its belly on the grass and slid to what should have been a perfect landing. But the cheer suddenly became a shriek of alarm as the grass parted to reveal the lip of an enormous dark hole. In other words, it, does this and it goes and slows down, glides, nice, smooth, perfect landing, and then there's a big giant hole, and it didn't count for the big hole. And it glides over a hole at least 50 yards across, reaches the edge, and she's knocked out. She regains consciousness. Well, maybe we won't get to that. She regains consciousness. Okay. She thinks about what happened to Mogget. She lights a match. 184, bottom. She's thinking, where was the force that had once been Mogget? Notice, not where is Mogget. Mogget is what? The cat form of whatever this thing is. And more importantly, what was it? And that reminds her, she grabs her sword and she grabs the bells. What does it not remind her of? The ring. She doesn't immediately think of the ring. Okay. So she turns to the paper wing, apologizes to it, says, sorry, perhaps I can make a new one someday. And we hear a voice. Sentiment, Abhorsen? 185. A voice that managed to sound like Maga and yet not like him. Louder, harsher, less human, every word seemed to crackle. She asks, where are you? The voice, here, and she sees lines of white fur run out from under the ruined fuselage. And the plane's now burning. No death sense twitch, but Sabriel could almost smell the free magic. Tangy, unnatural, nerve-jangling, tainting the thick odor of natural smoke. Then she sees the white fire lines again, streaming out. She couldn't look at it directly, but from the corners of her arm-shielded eyes, because she's got her arms up like this, she saw something human in shape, taller than her, and thin, almost starved. No legs, but a torso and head, balanced upon a column of twisting, whirling force. Torso and head on top of, essentially, a white tornado. Free. Save for the blood price. Notice, now, the nice little cute voice of the kitty cat, gone. Sabriel had no doubt about the meaning of a blood price and who would pay for it. Yeah, her. Summoning all her remaining energies, she calls 3 charter marks. She shouts them. They become silver blades as they leave her hand. She's doing this, throwing marks that become blades. What do they do when they hit the white light? Yeah, nothing. It laughs. She draws her sword now. Okay, her little magical silver blades didn't do anything, so what good is her sword going to do? Her mind raced. She thinks of the bells. Well, maybe one of the bells would work. But she's holding a candle. She's holding the sword. She only has 2 hands. She can't magically create a third one to hold sword, candle, and bell. Could she count on the creature's blazing presence to light her way? Almost as if it could read her mind, the creature suddenly started to lose its brilliance. And then she makes out a silhouette. Come on. Keep thinking. Notice what the artist formerly known as Mogget, is now doing here. What shape did it take before? Cat. What do cats often do with their prey? He's toying with her. Okay? Keep thinking, such a pity your head doesn't work too well. Yeah, but you saved it from not working forever. Is she appealing to this thing's sense of mercy? If it has one? We don't know that it has one. Sentiment. A memory now purged. In other words, now that I've been this blazing whatever thing of fire, that memory, gone. I don't owe you anything. Memories, yes, many memories, 189. Millennia. Okay, so I was wrong about the 1800 years. Millennia, that's more than 1 millennium. Okay, of servitude, Abhorsen, chained by what? Trickery, treachery. Captive in a repulsive, a cat. Why not a lion at least, A repulsive fixed flesh shape. But there will be payment. Oh, yes, slow, not quick at all. In other words, you're going to suffer for what? For my suffering for thousands of years. Okay? And it lashes out with a little tendril of light, trying to trip her. She leaps over it. She tries to stab it. Her arm gets pinioned to her side. And now it tightens its grip till she's close against its chest. Okay? Another arm grips the back of her helmet, forcing her to look up, till she saw its head directly above her. So, because this thing's bigger than her, one arm has got her arm pinned, the other one's pulling back on her head, so she's having to look up into its face. A thing of most basic anatomy, its eyes were like the sinkhole, deep pits without apparent bottom. No nose, but a mouth that split the horrid face in two. A mouth slightly parted to reveal the burning blue-white glare that had first used as flesh. Notice, she forgets everything. All charter magic had fled from Sabriel's mind. She's not going through the book of the dead coming up with spells. It was then her tired, concussed mind remembered the ring. It's on her left hand, her free hand. Her right hand's the one with the sword. Okay? Her left hand's free. So what conceivably can she do? And start fingering that ring off the finger. Okay? She didn't know what to do with it. Creature's head was bowing down towards her own, its neck stretching impossibly long. Why is it bowing its head down towards her own? Does it just want to get a good close look at her? Yeah, I think it's getting ready to devour. I mean, we're already told. Its mouth does what to the head? Splits it. This is a big mouth. It kind of leans its head down like it's going to go. Okay. The ring felt loose on her finger. Sabriel instinctively curled her hand. The ring felt looser. Curls her hand like this. Ring felt looser still, slipping down her finger. And as it slips, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Notice she's not going, get bigger ring, get bigger ring, get bigger. Or thinking some charter magic to enlarge it. Till without looking, Sabriel knew she had a silver hoop as wide or wider than the creature's head. It's like it's a piece of string now, or a lasso. And the thing says, well, first we're going to start with the eyes. Plucking of an eye. It tilted its head sideways, opened its mouth wider. Lower jaw dislocating. So, and the jaw comes out. Why? Because it doesn't want to eat her whole face. It just wants to get an eye. Let's start there. It's going to make it slow and painful. Yeah. She takes one last careful look, screws her eyes tight against the terrible glare. In other words, she doesn't want to see the mouth coming to get her eyes. Flips the silver hoop up over the thing's neck. And for a second, as the heat increased and she felt a terrible burning pain against her eye, as its mouth comes closer to it, Sabriel thought she'd missed. Okay, so I go through life, rest of my life with one eye, and then the hoop is ripped out of her hand. She didn't miss. The ring was shrinking again as it slid, impervious to the creature's desperate attempts to get it off. It had 6 or 7 hands. It's doing what? Put a collar, especially if a cat doesn't like the collar, put a collar on a cat and the cat will sit there and try to get the thing off. That's what it's doing. No, it howls and then it contracts again and we see Mogget back. Okay. Page 194. The light goes out. It wasn't a hairball, and there's Mogget, and Mogget, again, it wasn't a hairball, but a silver ring. The same silver ring. Well, what happens? It's like the ring gets over its head, and then it goes inside, and what was over the head becomes the collar. And now it has to cough it up to give it back to the Abhorsen. Welcome back, Mogget, she says. Okay. So they walk around and they find the ship. How many ships do they find? Several. What is this place? Louder? Burial ground for the royal family. How are they buried? I mean, do they see graves? There's all these ships, right? So, where is Touchstone when they meet him, when they find him?
planted on the tree.
He's the figurehead. Normally ships, if you've ever seen any of these, have as figureheads mermaids, sometimes a dolphin. Okay. This has got a man. Stark naked, anatomically correct. I mean, we're told everything. And she's like, she looks at him and goes, wow. She's 18 and he's 20 or whatever. And what does she realize? Not just made of wood. This isn't grown-up Pinocchio. This form is living. So, she brings him back. Why? Well, that's what her father would do. Okay, so what is an abhorsen supposed to do? Lay the dead to rest. But he's not dead. That's the thing. If they're not dead and they're quote-unquote in death, bring them back. If they're dead, meaning the body is dead, send them on. The body isn't dead. Okay? So, she brings him back, and we're going to skip a bit. We're going to skip a lot. Page 216. He falls kind of off the ship into Sabriel's arms. She lays him down to the ground because she's aware she's embracing a naked man. And he says, thank you, abhorsen. Why does he call her abhorsen? How does he know she's abhorsen? Because she brought him back, because only an abhorsen could do that. Okay? And because of the clothes she's wearing. This is, abhorsen clothing. Only the abhorsen wears this stuff. All right? She looks down, tries to ignore the curiously fond feelings that had appeared from somewhere, feelings similar to those that had made her bring back Jacint's rabbit. And she said, I better get him a blanket. It's like, yeah, if you don't want him to just lie there naked. Okay? So, Mogget says, I can get a blanket if you want to keep staring. And she's like, sorry, don't mean to stare. Mogget watches her hobble off, and so Mogget says, so, because he walks up to the man and sticks his tongue on the charter mark on the man's forehead. The charter mark indicates what? Charter mage. This is a person who works the magic of the charter. Okay? The same kind of mark Sabriel has. Same kind of mark abhorsen had at the beginning. Same kind of mark that mage had that did part of the baptism ceremony. So Margaret touches that and then goes, so, why? Well, because of what we find out later. Okay? So who is this guy? He's the prince. Okay? He's been there for 200 years. So, 222. Mogget starts talking to him. And Mogget calls him Touchstone. What? That's a fool's name. You remember what you've done? Yeah, I do. Okay, you can call me Touchstone. Yeah, I was a fool. Now, has anybody gotten to the end? Or nearly to the end? Because we find out why he's a fool. Okay? But I shall call you, notice, yeah, you can call me Touchstone, but I'm going to call you, Mogget says you can't. A spell tied to the corruption, yeah, I can't say it either. Notice, the prince knows who/what Mogget is. He goes, okay, so who rules the kingdom? No one. Oh, okay, so okay, Regency, that's fine. No, wait, where have I been? Regency lasted for 180 years. Anarchy has held sway for the last 20, tempered by what a few remaining loyalists. Do you realize you've been on this ship for 200 years? And the family? Notice he doesn't mean mom, dad. He means mom and dad's grandchildren, great grandchildren, all dead past the final gate. That is dead. Not mostly dead. Not within gates 1 through 8 dead. They've passed the final gate. They can never come back. And you should be dead too. Take that back. Yeah, all dead except for one. And that one should be dead. And that one's not dead. And that's the problem. He doesn't go into all that. So, the man breaks into tears. No point crying over it, Mogget says. Plenty of people have died trying to put the matter to rights. 4 Abhorsons have fallen in this century. My current Abhorson, she's not lying around crying her eyes out, etc., etc. So, he says you can serve her. Why? What will serving Abhorson... Why does Mogget say Touchstone should serve Abhorson? Sabriel.
Maybe he can right his wrong.
Kind of right his wrongs. Okay. You won't tell her? Touchstone asks. Tell who? Tell what? In other words, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. I can't tell her, Mogget says. You can't tell her. Why? The corruption is wide and the spell rather indiscriminatory. Hurry up, she'll be back soon. The corruption, I think he means not the corruption in the kingdom. I think he means we can't tell her because of the bindings on us. Who can tell her? Okay, who else? Her father. It's going to take meeting her father, which she is going to do, to tell her what she needs to know. Okay, so Sabriel gets all bent out of shape because he's using all this proper language, calling her milady. She's like, don't call me milady, just call me Sabriel. Why doesn't she want to be called milady? Because she's like 18 and he's like 20 or so. I mean, it's just wrong for somebody older to be calling somebody younger that. Why else? It implies a status difference. And she's like, I'm just a normal girl. Just call me Sabriel, but you're the Abhorson. No, page 227. My father is the Abhorson. I'm a sort of stand-in. Yeah, well, there's never been a stand-in Abhorson before. She says, I'll explain later. What's your name? He goes, can't remember. Call me Touchstone. She says, really? That's a jester's name, a fool's name. Why call you that? That's what I am. I'm a fool, he's saying. She goes, well, okay. Got to call you something, so I'll call you that. All right? You've been imprisoned in death. In death? He's surprised at that. She says, yeah, your spirit was preserved just beyond the border of death. Your body was preserved in this wooden figurehead. Both necromantic and free magic would have been involved. Powerful magic, both counts. Curious, why? What does she mean? What's so special about you? Why did somebody want to keep you alive yet dead? Beats me. Let's see. I was a guardsman. I remember that. Yep, the Royal Guard, that is. I worked for the royal family. Yeah, and there was an attack on the Queen. I remember that. An ambush, bottom of the stairs. See, we were fighting, blade, charter magic. We were all charter mages. Yeah, I was there. There was treachery. I don't know how. She listens. She thinks, well, could be his memory was impaired. Okay. So she asked Mogget, what have you told him? In other words, she's kind of implying, no, you didn't tell me all the truth. You told him something. Well, I told him about the state of the kingdom, recent events, our descent, blah, blah, blah. Okay? So, she reemphasizes she doesn't want to be called Abhorson. She doesn't want to be called Milady. She wants to be called Sabriel. And we will pick up, let's see here. We'll pick up on 232. Almost where I needed to get. I think we should still be able to finish.